A Western source says Nigeria may ask the UN Security Council to impose sanctions, including travel bans, on Boko Haram as early as next week. Nigeria's president is warning that the group is no longer just a local terror group, but poses a much greater threat to the African continent.
From 2009 to date, it has changed and is operating clearly as an Al-Qaeda organization, can better be described as Al-Qaeda in West and Central Africa.
At a summit in Paris, leaders from Nigeria and several other countries discussed a plan to find almost 300 schoolgirls kidnapped by the Islamic militant group, whose reach extends across 5 countries. Nigeria's president vows to find the girls, but making that more difficult. France's president says Boko Haram is armed with sophisticated weapons, is well-funded, and is linked with other terror groups in Africa. Randy Phipps is with a group called Free Them, an initiative that aims to fight human trafficking around the world. Randy, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we have this pledge to coordinate and fight Boko Haram. What are your feelings on this all-out war on the group?
I think it's great. It did take some time for it to happen, but these terrorists and these human traffickers, they're very organized. And I think it's about time that we collectively became organized and worked together to combat them.
Now, are you surprised that it took so long to get this sort of group mentality and approach on this?
Absolutely. It took about a week for the world to find out what was going on, and it started in Nigeria with the mothers and the parents of these children that were stolen. They started protests in Nigeria that slowly, it trickled down the pipeline and we heard about it, and then it became this huge social media campaign with the hashtag Bring Back Our Girls, and that brought a lot of the world attention to it for us to join together and just have the awareness about the situation happening and putting pressure for something to be done about it.
Now, there have been challenges to this since it began, almost 5 weeks ago. What are the challenges that you expect in the next few weeks?
Time. I think because they acted on it so late, the thing that's working against us is time. Those girls are in the hands of some dangerous people, terrorists, human traffickers that have no regard for human life. And those are children. That's somebody's baby. Those are kids that are on the verge of being raped, sold, tortured, if that hasn't happened already. So I think time is definitely working against us because a child can be sold.
Why do you think it took so much time for the region to act?
That's a really, really, really great question. But there's a lot of corruption that happens within those countries, with the government, with law enforcement, and also just not a lot of awareness happening to the general public. So we didn't hear about it till after the small protests started happening in Nigeria, then it got bigger, and then it came on social media, and then it just expanded from there.
What has your group been doing to sort of push this initiative in getting the schoolgirls free?
We have set up the petitions, the ones that's on change.org, and also the White House petition, so we can put pressure on our government to act, and also put pressure on the world to make sure that this is a topic that's on everyone's lips. This isn't something that's new. People have been stolen, people have been trafficked and kidnapped before, and it'll happen again. But we need to keep the story in the media. We need to keep the word going out that this is happening and it's not acceptable. We also need to hold the people that are doing this accountable. There's not a lot of accountability happening. That's why they're doing it and they're succeeding. So if we start to hold people accountable, then we're going to see some change.
Now, generally, do you think there's enough attention put on the issue of human trafficking? Has the United Nations pushed this enough?
The United Nations is doing their best, but I definitely think that there's not a lot of attention to this global crisis, as I often refer to it. It took almost 300 girls, children, getting stolen from their sleep at a school for the world to say, hey, this is something that's happening. But the sad reality of this is that it's happening every day in every country. It's happening outside of the studio. It's happening all over Toronto, Canada, and the world. So because this happened, I think that the movement to end human trafficking is going to grow larger because people are seeing that this is not just something in a third world country, it's also happening in our own backyards, and we want to do whatever it takes to eradicate it without having something so extreme happening. But this is something that's happening all over the world all the time.
From the group called Free Them, Randy Phipps, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.